California, 1862. It has rained for almost 45 days. Fierce storms have inundated a 300-mile length of the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys with water. In Southern California, the flooding has drowned thousands of cattle and washed away homes, food crops, and vineyards. The state is bankrupt, and many communities have been ruined and will take years to recover. Research shows that this is not the only big storm of our past, nor the largest. While the Great Flood of 1862 may no longer be in living memory, a storm of this scale is inevitable once again. This is the Ark Storm. Winter, present day. Weather reports show atmospheric rivers of moisture forming in the tropics, growing larger and gaining speed as they travel towards the west coast. The state braces for the impact of the coming storm, but the public at large does not comprehend the extreme danger the storm poses. The Ark Storm slams the coast with a fury rivaling that of hurricanes, beginning a process of destruction that will last for weeks. Levees and flood control systems are overwhelmed by the incredible volume of water that has nowhere to go. Widespread flooding occurs throughout the state, severely affecting Sacramento, the Bay Delta, Los Angeles and Orange counties, San Diego, and many other communities. Over the course of the storm, as much as 10 feet of rain falls. Thousands of landslides occur, damaging homes, highways, and roads. Property damage approaches $400 billion. Much of the total loss is uninsured, so large numbers of building owners do not have the financial resources to pay for repairs. After almost a month of continuous rain, the storm finally subsides, leaving many parts of the state flooded for months to come. How will society deal with the social, economic, and environmental consequences of this tragedy? Together, we can prevent the Ark Storm from becoming a major catastrophe. How can our government agencies work effectively with one another to create emergency response and evacuation plans so that instead of victims, we would have survivors? What if we could prevent the inundation of major communities through creating more advanced flood controls and levee systems? A heightened level of readiness is essential to averting this potential catastrophe. After all, preparedness is part of our civic duty and obligation to society.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am your host, Sandy Schoelles, but tonight we have something a little different. We've got Kelley Lincoln, who is my co-host for tonight, from KMUD in Humboldt County, California. She's been with me before, and she's really going to lead this show because she is the Californian. And we have Nicholas Humphrey, our meteorologist and buddy and PhD candidate in emergency preparedness and disaster management. So welcome to both of you. And I am going to just say hi, everybody in the chat. Busy show. Kelley, I'm handing it to you.
Well, I was wondering, we didn't talk about this. Do you have some photographs that you want to show folks of all the storm damage?
No, I didn't.
You didn't do it?
No, I know we have so much to talk about. I'm sorry. I didn't do it.
Okay.
But there's a lot of it. So I'll have to make another video separately. Put it up in my stream and on the YouTube. Sorry, folks.
It was largely not too bad in some ways. Don't tell that to the folks in Beverly Hills because they took some of the worst of it, mudsliding, and then I haven't looked at all the stuff from the Santa Barbara. They call those the transverse mountains, right? So what? I'm a little underwhelmed. So this started because Sandy and I were talking about sort of the public response to the atmospheric river coming in. Like, so the week before it came in, people found information about Ark Storm and Ark Storm 2.0. And that was information. And so people were freaking out, thinking that the rain was going to be worse than it is, and all kinds of upset. And I should have played Daniel Swain. Those of you guys who watch Daniel Swain, can I take over a little bit? Can I screen share for a little bit?
Are you ready?
Well,
All right.
I was just going to show Daniel's page, and then I'll be right back.
All right. We've got screen sharing, co-host screen sharing tonight.
You guys know that guy, right? Daniel
Well, wait
Swain.
a minute. I don't see it. You have to host. You have to share it. Remember?
Did I fail?
It's not on yet. It will be here, folks. This is only the second time we've done the co-host screen sharing, so it's.
Can you see his face?
Yes, we can. There he is.
That's Daniel Swain. That's Weather West. He's one of the authors of Ark Storm 2.0. Now I stopped. There you are. And the first one was written, I think, by USGS. I know it's certainly on USGS's page. And then he wrote a second one. And so the thing I kept saying to Sandy is, yeah, but it's a planning document, not a weather forecast. It's a planning document, not a weather forecast. And like that video you just showed, then things have happened. I am really going to screen share for a second.
All right.
Let's
you can leave it on. It's not going to bother. I can put the overlay comes right back on top of it. So you can leave your screen share on from now on.
Oh, I see. I can't see you guys though.
Oh, okay. I see. All right. Then you don't have to. I don't see it yet. No,
I know. That's because I'm scrolling through. Let's see. I think it's going to be this one.
There we go. Okay.
This is the wiki page on Ark Storm, and you can see over here in the map how much flooding that it was to call for in. And this is Ark Storm before climate change is accounted for. This is just based on the historical record. Let's see if it's up here. Yeah, see right here? They see in the sediment record that in the years after AD 212, AD 440, 603, right? So you're looking at an average of every 51 to 426 years that there's been one of these 1800s level events. And the weather, the wind can get to 125 miles an hour, which is not something I've ever experienced in my life.
Ooh, me neither.
They're worried about landslides, billions of dollars, this and that. And then Daniel adds, so there's a picture of like somebody drawing in the real time of what it was like in the aftermath and how long it took to kind of for those floodwaters to recede. So Daniel, he brings it in and he adds climate change. Let's see if we can find where I was going to look at that. So he's looking at month-long megastorms, subsequent mega flood options. And gosh, it's going to be coming. That's going to be coming. So here we go. So megastorms the risk appears higher during moderate to strong El Nino conditions, which is what we're having in terms of the El Nino that we're experiencing this year. And so a lot of this brought this information to the forefront in the algorithms, and people took it a little bit out of context. And then the thing I wanted to kind of really point out why he did Ark Storm 2.0 is that climate change is increasing the risk of this kind of flood. And he goes, this is off of his his Weather West blog page. So if you go there and you just write in Ark Storm 2.0, this article that he's written will come up.
Oh, yeah.
And so he talks about this. He talks about the 50-year cycle. These storms, instead of they're just going to get stronger is kind of the point of that graph, and they're going to get more frequent as the temperature increases. You're going to see more, right? Annual average likelihood starts to jump of 50-year storms, of 100-year, and of 200-year storms. And these other ones, when you look at it, they're coming between 50 and 400 years. So that's this line, right? That's this middle line. And then he also talks about it in terms of kind of the whiplash between super drought and super floods, which can increase it decreases our mental preparedness. It was really dry. It's been dry. You just don't see that kind of a big storm coming. And then it also, the geology here, it makes landslides that much more likely to happen. And then he gets into science that I'll leave you to read for yourselves. Like, you don't want to deal with that. So that's what Ark Storm is.
I do have this one. I do have this. This was landslides. How you were talking about the landslides? And this is what is right now, January 31st to February 8th, 2024. All the areas of landslidery.
So it looks like Mendocino had a lot. It looks like down here in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah. So there was the rain totals, 10 inches in some places to 18.5. Look at that. And then there's where all the landslides, all the different landslides. So the California got a little hurt, huh?
Yeah.
We're all right. We're doing all right.
Yeah. Okay. Kids are all right. So
I'm still screaming. Now, can you? Okay. And then
we're back to your screen, and you can change whatever and put on whatever. Okay.
So this one's also by Daniel, and this is in Science Advances.
I don't see it's changing. It looks like it's just on the Google one. It has. I mean, it's Wikipedia. It hasn't changed at all.
You know why?
Why?
It's because I got to do this.
Yeah, do that, and then do this, and do this.
Then I got to go back and do this.
And do that, and do this, and we'll get it down. Yes, we will. I'll sing and entertain everybody while the right. All right, here we go. Yay! Okay, we could definitely applaud. Yay! Okay.
What USGS has got to say about it? They just have this little short piece, and I'll be honest, this screen's a little too far from me to read, but
I can see it. What would you like to see?
Well, just. Can you read that little bit?
The SAFRR project second scenario, called the Ark Storm, addresses massive U.S. West Coast storms analogous to those that devastated California in 1861 to 62. Storms of this magnitude are projected to become more frequent and intense as a result of climate change. The SAFRR project assembled experts from scientific research agencies to design the large but scientifically plausible hypothetical storm scenario hitting both northern and southern California. The wind, precip, and flooding and coastal hazards were translated into physical, environmental, social, and economic damages to emergency responders, resource managers, and the public a realistic assessment of what is historically possible. So they had an Ark Storm summit, and that was in Sacramento in 2011. 250 guests came to talk about it.
Okay. And so all of that brought it up. And part of Daniel talks about is, back-to-back storms. And so I thought I would point out that our California Weather Watch is talking about we're going to have another atmospheric river. Do you want to see that little bit? It's probably just like 20 or 30 seconds.
Now this is and then Nick is
and
being
then
so
and then what I'm
patiently
going to do is
quiet.
I'm going to pick Nick's brain about when those documents say that it prepares folks that are emergency response planners. That's not the right word, though, right? Emergency response. You guys are emergency preparedness, right?
Nick,
Well, yeah. The emergency managers do preparedness
Managers.
response. Yeah, do preparedness and response and recovery and mitigation. At least that's the um, um, ideally they're supposed to be doing comprehensive emergency management (CEM). So they do all phases of emergency management. So preparedness is a part of that process. So yes.
So
you ready for it? You want to try it? Play it.
you want me to do that? Okay, yeah, I'll do
You want to
that.
play the clip? And let's see if everybody can hear it, because this is kind of a test. I want to know if you guys can hear the clip Kelly's playing.
Okay.
Because if you can't, I'll play it. Tell me when you're ready,
No,
Kel.
not. I'm slow. Oh,
Okay.
here I am.
All right. Thank you. It's good. It's fine. This is live, and we've not done this.
Look at the 6 to 8 and 8 to 14 day before we look at the weather
Can
models.
everybody hear this?
Above average signal increasing for the state of California and some of the Southwest, and the 8 to 14 day, no exception there also. And might have been seeing some of this on social media, the experimental product,
My
risk
area
heavy
is now in
precipitation.
moderate.
They can hear it.
High for
They
virtually
can hear
all
it.
the entire state of California, February 17th through the 19th. And we still have a big deal of uncertainty on how these storm systems are going to unfold. I'll show you a little bit on that here in a moment. And the risk heavy snow, look at that. They got a high for the Sierra Nevada, the Cascades, coastal range, a little bit there as well. And again, this is as we go through the mid and later portion of February upcoming. Also, why not throw that risk of high wind in there as well. Now, taking a look at the GFS ensemble mean, you can see the inside slider here dropping down, and that's the last of it. Then we get our break here. We get some ridging. We get to relax for a bit and clean up. And then you see the jet extensions start to emerge. And this GFS is hot off the presses here, this morning's run. And look at that nasty jet stream start to get pointed right back down south of Southern California, ripping across north of the Hawaiian Islands there. So, yeah, looks like the storm track is going to take aim in some form at the state of California. We still don't know just how strong some of these systems are going to be. Are they going to be run-of-the-mill systems? Are they going to be huge, potent atmospheric rivers, big low-pressure centers trying to spin up some windstorms across the state? We're just not quite sure just yet at this time frame. But you can see the jet stream remains active all the way into the February 22nd time frame, which is about where the GFS wrapped up. It's running as we speak right now. This is looking at the European ensemble mean. Wider view, here's Japan to the left side there. There's bottom center Hawaiian Islands. There's California. And our inside slider swings through. This is last night's run. And then you can see a little bit of ridging here as we get our break. But you can see that the next jet extension is clearly on its way. This is the most recent European model run. And really the models have been extremely consistent with this jet extension moving across. So some form of storm activity likely to be incoming. We don't know if they're going to be strong or weak yet at this point. Looking at the European ensemble mean, closer view of things here. There's the Hawaiian Islands to the bottom left. There's the state of California. Put that into motion. There goes our inside slider there. Then we get the ridging, a little bit of a break here. And then we try to bring some precip back already Tuesday morning, maybe for Northern California, maybe even clipping some of the Bay Area. Then we get kind of this decaying front, mainly Central and Northern California with that. Not looking at huge amounts just quite yet, but then the jet extension starts to arrive, and it looks like some more powerful systems could be rolling in here as we go through later in the week and towards the following weekend. As you can see, it's got some of that atmospheric river look to it at times.
Look
and kind
where
of
it's hitting
continues
me.
this precipitation on through the
Ooh,
extended
you.
forecast and all the way towards the end of the run as well. So, yeah, definitely something we want to keep our eye on here, folks.
Okay, I'm gonna clip. gonna clip that out and come on back.
Okay. So, Nick, how does that look to you when you look at that? Like a normal weather pattern? Somebody asked in the chat.
Oh well, I mean, for an El Nino situation, El Nino, it's fairly normal pattern to have the atmospheric rivers impacting California during El Nino. So yeah, it's actually been quite for an El Nino year, El Nino winter, quite typical winter. It's been um, abnormally warm in the northern states and wet in California, cool in the south, and yeah, it's been and you had tornadoes in Wisconsin yesterday. So, I mean, it's been weird weather, but it's definitely been an El Nino style winter.
El
So
Nino
yes,
style. That sounds like something you
wow,
order in a
yeah,
restaurant.
yeah, the restaurant, yeah,
I want an El Nino
yeah.
style with my Ark Storm. I had a whole Love Boat Ark Storm takeoff, but forget it. I'm not going to sing it tonight. The Ark Storm is ready and waiting for you. Okay, forget
Do you
it.
have any understanding, Nick, of what pushes an El Nino into a megastorm track?
So what creates like a a what creates like an arc storm type event.
Yeah, like
Um,
what the setup in the atmosphere is to make it kind of go overboard.
um, basically, well, I mean the pattern for a heavy rain event in California or anywhere on the West Coast, because we've had these atmosphere river events, and I grew up in Washington State. If you don't know, I so we've had them in Washington State before. Um, is basically you get these jet streams that come out of the tropics. So you have a dip in the jet stream that goes into the tropics, taps into the tropics, subtropical regions. So near Hawaii, it used to be the old term that's now antiquated. It used to be Pineapple Express.
Yeah.
We use it all the
Yeah,
time.
now it's atmospheric river. But basically, it you get this deep tropical moisture where if you take a what do you call a weather sounding a balloon up through the atmosphere column, it's just moisture, deep moisture all all through the atmosphere column. It's humid all throughout the column, where you could just wring. You know, if you took it was like a sponge, you could just wring it out with water. It's just deep moisture, and it just propels that moisture in the jet stream all the way
Ooh.
eastward, northeastward, and then you get that, the jet stream dynamics. Meteorologists, we like to talk in fancy terms, jet stream dynamics.
We like it. Go for it.
Form a form a storm, get a storm, a low pressure system with the frontal system that can develop from it. So you get the fronts, warm front, cold front, basically. So you get a very dynamic, powerful storm out of that. And the thing with California, the thing with the West Coast, California with the Sierra Nevada mountains and other mountain ranges, Cascades in Washington, Oregon and the Olympic Mountains, is that you get all this mountainous terrain, and you get this extra lift when the winds hit the mountains, and you get all this additional lift, and it produces heavy rainfall and snowfall, and you get higher freezing levels that can melt snow and produce even more flooding, and you get all this extra flooding that comes down the mountain ranges,
Mm-hmm.
and so you get elevated flooding in rivers and streams, and then the terrain can't handle the rainfall, the extra rainfall that falls. So you get mudslides, landslides, and basically a big old mess in valley floors, and all the flooding that you like saw in the big storms in like 1862, 1863 in California, and the big valleys flooded. So, I mean, basically with the Ark Storm, you just get probably an event where the moisture is unusually greater than normal, and maybe the 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 jet stream was unusually fast, so maybe it hits the mountainous terrain and produces greater lift and produces heavier precipitation locally to produce greater flooding in that way. So you basically have all these ingredients that just do more damage to the region than a normal event would do, and that would produce the climatologically extreme event.
Okay.
That would be the Ark Storm, the atmospheric river 1,000 year event. I guess that's what the K stands for. So,
Is there a likelihood of this happening?
We've already seen it. I mean,
Yeah,
they show it happens every so often.
So, do you know when this? What do you guys think about the so often?
Well, I kind of wanted to bring up the juxtaposition of weather and climate. Like the weather is said that happens every 50 to 400 years, and the climate change, according to Daniel, is that the ocean gets warmer. And kind of what I'm hearing Nick say is, these conditions, and one of them's going to be in a warmer ocean. And then, anyway, that makes it happen more often. But then I also was listening to thinking you said that the jet stream's moving faster. And is it true or false that as the temperature between the equator and the poles becomes closer together, that the jet stream slows down?
Yeah, so that's something that's also happening. So you may that's happening with the. So you have jet streams. You have different jet streams. You have a polar jet and a subtropical jet stream. So the polar jet stream, which is deals more with the differences between the poles and the mid latitudes. That one is maybe slowing down because of climate change. I'm not sure what's going on with the subtropical jet stream. It's a little bit different. It has different dynamical characteristics. Let's put it that way. So it behaves a little bit more differently. So I'm not sure what's going on with that because of climate change. But yeah. I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
I think I should have known. I'm a little embarrassed. When we have atmospheric rivers, are those brought to us by the tropical jet stream?
Like the subtropical jet stream. Yeah.
Also, I didn't give credit on that video. That channel is California Weather Watch. I feel like we should give credit to him.
Absolutely. I'll put him in the show notes.
Okay. Okay, I'm all done. We can hang up now.
She's all done.
Kidding. I still want to talk about.
She's a funny one, huh, guys? That's the professional news girl. News girl.
As a citizen, so I'm a citizen in the county, but I'm also for the radio station. We do a thing here where we report out. We report out to the public during these last storms we were giving out. Okay, the wind speed's supposed to die down tomorrow morning. The roads are broken up here. That kind of just nonsense, right? Here's where you can go to get your resources. And one of the things I'm trying to wrap my mind around is what, there's that video she played talks about social costs, environmental costs, and financial costs, right? And so as planners, what do you guys plan for? How do you understand your role? Like, you're going to tell people it's coming. You're going to maybe have some financial insurance. Like here in California, we got that fair fire insurance so that people can potentially be insured to recover from a fire if one happens. And remember, Ark Storm is a planning document, not a weather forecast, right? So I just go back to that. So I
Right.
can talk about fire plans and earthquake plans. It's all that same kind of planning for what could happen. And then, yeah, and so then when people are without, like their house is flooded and they don't have anywhere to charge their phone, for example, does the Office of Emergency Services, are you guys thinking about setting those kinds of places up for people? I mean, clearly you're not going to be thinking about making sure that I have 2 weeks of food and water stored in my house in case my road slides shut. But what are you thinking about? Where does all that stuff sort of dovetail out? What can the public come to understand is their responsibility, and what can they look to the OES for? Like I know in California, one of the things that OES does is it makes sure that all the radio towers are working. So if we need to rely on shortwave radio, we've got that going.
So I can't. I'm not sure if I can speak for like every emergency management agency in the country because like
I
they're
just thought
all
tell us what
yeah.
Not
learning.
yet,
I mean,
but he will be the
I
head of
mean,
FEMA.
I mean, no, no. I mean the thing with like dealing with emergency management is like it's like it's kind of a like a shared responsibility sort of, whereas the where the with preparedness, there's different aspects to preparedness where there's a lot of concerns about um well, like having enough resources and then trying to reduce losses and then have trying to actually like protect yourself from the hazard itself, and all these different things that go into preparedness. And emergency managers, they a lot of the concern is trying to protect um, the infrastructure for people and for the community, and then also trying to deal with like the immediate aftermath of an event to the best of their ability, and helping people to the best of their ability, and organizing things. The thing with like emergency management in a lot of different jurisdictions is that I'm kind of giving you kind of a spiel about emergency management that goes maybe beyond this question, but um, it's um, it's funded very differently in different jurisdictions, and it's very different in very different jurisdictions. So in your, I don't know, maybe in your jurisdiction, you might have an actual emergency manager that's like a full-time emergency manager. I hope you do.
We
But
have an office of emergency services.
okay. In some jurisdictions, the emergency manager might only be part time and might be might be the police chief or the fire chief or something, full-time fire chief or something, especially in rural counties. So they might only be doing the job part-time, and some jurisdictions may not even have like a traditional like emergency manager. There's so these issues get very sort of under the rug in terms of how they're dealt with. But I mean, just thinking about like what people should expect with preparedness is a difficult question because
we're talking about a whole nation, and it's 50 states and 50 counties per state. Yeah.
A lot of counties per state, and then I mean with individuals, the most important thing you can probably do is have the ability to remove yourself from the hazard when it threatens, but not everybody has the ability to do that.
Right.
Yeah, because of mobility issues, because of resource issues, things like that. And so you're left with these pieces of advice about which I'm gonna tell you a little secret. The 72 hours of food and 2 weeks of water. Those things are completely made up. We just made that stuff. We don't. Like literally, that stuff's been made up. There's no like scholarly like things to back up why we done that. It's just the government made that stuff up because we thought that would be adequate.
Well, these days,
you. Like, yeah, like we.
Well,
like,
you need a little time.
Like,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, there's no like necessarily direct evidence that stuff literally helps people, because a lot of stuff gets in a disaster that you may collect prior to a disaster, like subsistence items, as we call them, can get destroyed in a disaster.
Burn up and get wet.
Yeah,
burn
exactly.
up, get wet,
tornadoes,
get destroyed
blow
in a
your
tornado.
canned food.
Yeah. So you collect this stuff, but it gets destroyed, and so you're left with nothing. So, and this goes into the things with preparedness, planning actually, and whether it be individual household preparedness planning or even preparedness planning by a city. Preparedness planning is always a good idea in a lot of solid ways, because it gets your mind, gets the gears going to think about how the future might evolve and what you need to do to get ready, to have a state of readiness, because that's what preparedness is a state of readiness for response and ideally recovery and mitigation activities, not just response. But if we're just thinking about responding to an event for a second, you want to get ready, have a state of readiness to respond, but you get ready, but you have the event happen, but it doesn't necessarily, everything that happens doesn't necessarily go according to what you planned for.
like
and
in
that's the
Buffalo,
biggest thing.
when they had the snowstorm in
Yeah.
2023, and the county executive got his ass handed to him on a plate for the fact that people died and froze to death in a blizzard that happens in Buffalo every year. So,
Sandy, talk about it. Like, what happened? Why?
okay. Well,
why
Buffalo
that
had a
your-
blizzard, and that's like, duh. Buffalo has at least one or two every year. This year they had again, two gigantic snowstorms because the lakes did not freeze. But in 2023, it was quite large, and it was really awful that people froze to death in their homes because they could not get out. The city, I don't know how come the city didn't prepare properly. What happened? The mayor it was just a big debacle. Too many people died. I don't know if it was 20, but what could be done?
No fuel for the plows. Like, what happened?
They didn't get to the smaller city streets. Or people they didn't think they had to go to warming shelters. The power was off. This year, the same thing didn't happen. They got their shit together to make sure it didn't happen because the backlash was terrible. But I mean, Nicholas, in a situation like that, it's a medium-sized city. I mean, resources are also tight. So how are these places
Yeah.
going to deal with this as climate change gets worse? How are these places? Now, I just looked it up where I live in my small county. We have an emergency manager, but he's also in the fire also. But we actually do, and we're the
Yeah.
smallest county, well, we're large, but we're the poorest county, but we have one. So I'm just wondering about that also. Oh, wait. Also, wait, Jackie's in the Wolf. The governor didn't close the interstate till it was too late, too. I thought that was this year, but that might have been last year. Yeah, she works for the Red Cross. That's Jackie. She's been on the show with us.
And so then what happened? I'm sorry. I'm from the warm area. I don't know about snow. We close the roads when it just starts to snow where I live. So do people get out there and then they can't drive? They die in their.
Yes. One of the big things was a young lady died in her car. And it was, she was a nurse or something like that. And it's ridiculous what happened. But it did not happen this year. And Buffalo had ridiculous amounts of snow. I mean, they had, up to past your door. Like the Sierra Nevadas are had this this past week. Insane amounts of snow. Well, that's what happened. Thank you, Jackie.
I guess, Nick, I should ask you, what is your PhD dissertation? Like, what is your project?
Oh, my project is very different. I'm looking at studying. I'm studying meteorologists and their knowledge of human behavior and decision making during tornado warnings. So I'm interested in what they know and how they use what they know to inform their communication approach for tornado warnings. So yeah.
Hey,
so
that could be
basically the gist of it
extrapolated.
in a couple of seconds.
Yeah. That could be.
So I'm interviewing.
Yeah.
I'm going to interview. I haven't gotten the approval from the Institutional Review Board for NDSU yet to start the study, but I have to do that. But I am going to interview National Weather Service meteorologists from the southern United States. So to do that.
And what have
there's
you
a lot of
studied
tornadoes
about-
down there.
And have you already started your studies about how the population receives that information when they get it?
Oh yeah. I mean, like what do people do in response to warnings generally? Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of information out there about what people do in response to warnings. What happens when they receive information about a warning? I mean, going back 50, 60 years, because emergency management, scholarly emergency management research has been going on since the 1950s. Sociologists and geographers were studying emergency management. We're writing early emergency management research back then. Um, in during the military days, because the military was interested in knowing how people respond during nuclear war,
Oh, yeah.
of all things. So
Well,
how they respond, and they wanted to know: do people panic? Do people just panic in response to a disaster? In response, and they found out that people don't panic. People generally don't seize up and panic and go crazy. They do information searching, milling they call it. So basically, information search. They don't generally, most people don't instantly take shelter in response to a warning, but they do search for more information in response to a warning. They typically will use the warning as a cue to do that. They will look for environmental cues, sights, sounds, smells. They will search out more information via social cues. So, what are other people doing? So, warning is a social phenomenon, not just an individual phenomenon. So, what are other people doing? So, especially in hurricane warnings, for example, are other people evacuating? Should I evacuate based on what other people are doing? Things like that. So, yeah, warning's a social phenomenon.
you know what's weird? In Florida, they are taking sociology as a curriculum out of the universities and the schools. So I suppose Florida, which has hurricanes and now tornadoes, will not have a sociological component to their emergency management, training or education. So there's a note to all of you, burgeoning sociologists: don't go to school in Florida. Okay. Public announcement finished.
I'm not going to get political today.
Well, it just hit
You're
my
going
face
over
because it hit me because he's talking about all of these different confluing, they're flowing together. Meteorology, psychology, sociology, everything, geography, it all flows together for emergency management, disaster preparedness. It all does. You're in a good
That's
field,
part of
Nicholas.
that's part of my comprehensive examination. As I had to describe basically the history of emergency management and to my committee, so I had to describe what I'm telling you now, the history of the field as it evolved to show my understanding of it. So that's what I had to do
That's interesting.
in order to pass my comps. So yeah. Another thing I had to do was describe the history of emergency management, higher education, which is not very good. The emergency management is very disjointed in higher education. So yeah,
Wow.
it's very
See, and
disjointed.
it,
So
it it should not be,
yeah,
right, Kelly? I mean, don't
yeah,
you think
should not
now it should be a
be. Yeah,
fluid throughout universities and then to be able to be uniformly applied
it should be.
processes?
It should be. It should be, but yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not to take away from people because I don't want to badmouth other programs
No.
because there's people that are getting good educations in other places, and a lot of emergency managers are actually getting higher education degree programs nowadays, which is good for the field of emergency management. But yeah, it's still disjointed in terms of agreement on coursework, and how it should be taught, and disagreements on things like that, which are being worked out amongst the field. So things like that.
What
I know I
I
got
want to get
a
your
little off
understanding.
topic, but yeah.
I'm like looking at the time. I'm wondering what your understanding of FEMA is and the way that it's organized.
Uh, I'm definitely not I I tell people I know FEMA, but I'm not a FEMA expert. um,
Right.
Yet.
yeah, yet, but yeah, I mean FEMA basically. Um, I mean it preaches comprehensive emergency management. It's it basically promotes preparedness. It does a lot with trying to support disaster response. It'll um, um, obviously disaster when it comes to response, like immediate event. Um, most of that is done locally, and that's really the crux of emergency management. Is um, response is supported at the local level because the locals are going to know most about what's going on and what needs to be done and how and most about
Mhm.
what's being supported. But um, there are when it comes to response and then leading into recovery. Um, um, FEMA provides support um, um, in terms of um, in terms of recovery under the Stafford Act. You have presidential declarations, emergency declaration, major disaster declaration by the president of the United States. This basically just delineates how much money you
Of
can get
course.
for like disaster
Mhm.
recovery. Um, um, and then,
I understand those
uh,
funds are running low
yeah,
because so many national emergencies in a row.
yeah, and I'm not familiar with those, uh, the funding details. I know they're trying to, um, I heard there was some kind of effort. I know FEMA was talking about some kind of effort to try to improve their reorganized how they do disaster recovery funding to try to make it a little bit more streamlined, especially individual because they have individual recovery um, and then business recovery funding through the small that they do in connection with the
Oh,
Small Business Administration, so stuff
like
like that.
PPP
So
loans that never got paid
yeah,
back.
PP, yeah,
Well, these are
yeah,
different. We got
Yeah.
those in this county and in the county south of us after the earthquake. Yeah, after the earthquake. And
mm-hmm.
I think it helped a lot of small businesses, but and I don't know who, somebody seemed to be helping what we'll call the lowest income bracket of individuals get into apartments and because their houses were just their housing was destroyed in that earthquake. Um, but then I didn't know how much help there was for, let's say, the average homeowner whose house got knocked off their foundation or something like that.
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
I don't know that it wasn't there. I just don't know. But I heard
Well,
about
I,
this.
I think there's applications. I know that. I mean, from what I know, from what I've read and seen and all, you have to apply and wait. There is somebody on Twitter, Climate Survivor Network, and he's a writer. He survived the Paradise Fire in California, but his home didn't. And it's been a long, arduous process for him. It's been awful. You can read his work on, I think he's on Substack, Climate Survivors Network, and it is he just settled with the insurance and he gets not enough to rebuild, because it everything went one place, went to some money went here, some money went there. He's not going to be able to rebuild. It's a so I just thought I'd throw that out if anybody's
What
interested.
I keep
Yeah.
hearing right there is that the sort of the middle income person who doesn't have a business, who's not super low income, And even super low income people sometimes own their housing, and then they're not going to get another house. They're going to get an apartment. And then how's that going to be in 5 years? Because
Right.
rents keep skyrocketing and stuff.
Hoople's Cat said FEMA has a great YouTube channel. I learn a lot. Hoople's Cat's channel, as I hope a lot of you know, he's a prepper, but he is a retired RN from a humongous Toronto hospital, which he worked in all through the pandemic, and he really knows his shit too. So that's another one I'll give a plug.
To do with Hoogle culture. I'm a big
Hoople,
fan.
Huples, Hoople's Cat. Yeah, he's wonderful. I love him. So there's another one tonight. Throwing names out. But I can put them in the links. So Kelley.
The funding and then the law, one thing I kind of wanted to just like throw out there, just lob it into the middle is in one of his most recent office hours, Daniel was talking about how it is that in California, there's what he deemed a limited amount of flood gauges. So we have them on kind of the major rivers, but he was articulating a need to have them on localized creeks so that people can kind of tell when it's getting big. Like they can open their phone and go, oh, it's happening here. I might need to get out before the road shuts. Because some places, my road will be fine up here, but when I get down to try and leave, then in that flatland, it'll be flooded or something.
Yeah, I mean I think that's a good point. Because that's part of being able to respond to an event is situational awareness, is what that's called. Basically, the ability to know what's going on at any given time during an event, so that you have the ability to get away if things are getting real. Basically, if it's getting serious, and you need to be able to get away. So yeah, I think that's important. And I mean. You talked about preparedness. One of the things that climate change will require, I think, is long term. And I don't know. I don't know what California is doing specifically, but is long term mitigation. Which is basically long-term risk reduction, and in international UN speak, they call it disaster risk reduction. Basically doing what you can to reduce the risk associated with a hazard over a long period of time. And with flooding, I know here where I am in Fargo, North Dakota, they're building a lot of we have a lot of flood walls. We've got building some floodgates and some big I'm trying to remember what it's called exactly, but it's like an area where the water can collect and be diverted. It's basically a diversion zone for the water to collect and then be diverted up or downstream away from Fargo when it gets starts to become too much water, so it doesn't flood Fargo out of out
Flood Fargo,
like it's done in the past. Yeah,
sounds like a movie.
Done in the past. Yeah, like it's done in the past.
I think they're looking at stuff like that by Stockton, because Stockton's kind of in a funny place, and then it can flood easy there if the San Joaquin gets out of control. And so I think I've read some stuff about they're looking at which fields that water can be diverted out of the river into. And I know we have certain things out on the mouth of the Eel. There's certain little zones where they can kind of divert the water over. It's small, and mega storm, it wouldn't really do much, but in an average storm, it'd be all right.
Yeah. Of course, the controversial thing about flood diversion is that there's always somebody that has to deal with the water that's being it's being diverted to. In the case of Grand Forks, North Dakota, north of here, because the river is the Red River of the North. It flows north
Oh,
toward Canada.
cool.
Yeah, and so they might have to deal with the water flowing north from Fargo.
Wow.
So yeah,
How much will they like
so
that
it's
on their
always a
fields? Yeah. In the long
yeah.
run, it's good for their fields, but in the short run, it kind of messes up infrastructure, irrigation infrastructure,
Yeah,
roads.
Hmm.
Interesting.
yeah.
When
But yeah. And then I lived before I moved to Fargo to do my PhD. I lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, and in Lincoln, we back in 2015, we had some very, very, very heavy rain that fell in Lincoln, and an example of the flood control measures um, that they have in Lincoln is that they have parks that serve as flood zones, so they
oh,
flood. That they purposely allow those areas to flood because they're parks around creeks, so they
Hmm.
flood, and then they also have ponds that just are purposely not built around. They just allow to flood, and then canals that just are built around. They're allowed to flood. So basically, you have infrastructure that's not allowed to be built around these areas, so that you have a very high water rise. You don't have infrastructure that's being destroyed. It just floods, and you don't have infrastructure that's being destroyed because of the flooding.
Hmm.
And so that's your flood control. Basically, you basically allow things to flood without infrastructure being destroyed by the flooding. Um,
appropriate
so
preparedness.
Or appropriate for
yeah,
the environmental coffeehouse flush of the day. We want to
yeah,
flush the flooding. Maybe we should do that. We have to do it. We're going to flush the flooding.
flush the flooding.
Goodbye, flooding. All right. So we're at the hour mark,
Your
and
brain, I
I
appreciate it. I feel like
I want to remind everybody that before we look at the and say thank you, remind everybody to go over to the Letter Hack. He's live soon, and he will be reading from his book. He writes short stories, and on a Friday night, it is a wonderful thing to do to de-stress after our show, which always works you up. Then you can de-stress with the Letter Hack. So that's my plug for him, because we do our show every Wednesday night, left past 10. So, Kelley, take it away. What would you like
I
to?
just wanted to, when you were doing that, I was thinking, oh, I'll plug KMUD, not for tonight. I mean, tonight's a lovely night, but anytime that folks want to plug in online, it's just kmud.org. And also, I'll plug an app I really like called Radio Garden. You can find KMUD on it, but it's just a picture of the globe with these green lights, and every single green light is another radio station. You can listen to
How
radio stations
cool.
anywhere in the world. Redway, California is one of those places, kmed.org.
All
But
right.
like I like to listen to one in the middle of Africa. It's like almost dead center in the Sahel, and listen to all this. Like,
That's wild.
it is
I've
wild.
been listening. This is really weird, Nick and Kay. I've been listening to the
Hmm.
emergency station. I downloaded the app to hear what's going on where I live, fire and police and all. And tonight,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, in a small place, we had a 40-year-old overdose, and we had somebody drive into a field who had a stroke. I mean, it was like I was like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
Are you
Friday
listening
night.
to Podcastify?
Yes, Broadcastify. Boy, are we advertising? I'm not getting paid for it, folks. It's just we're just telling you. So, Nick, do you want to plug anything? Come on. What are you going to plug? Your Patreon,
You
which I always
can
haven't.
Yeah, you can follow me on. I don't really write on Patreon anymore, but if you want to give me money for as a poor Poor graduate student. Feel
This is what
free,
YouTube, the gig
patreon.com.
economy. Yeah, we all help each other.
Patreon.com. Yeah, patreon.com/meteorologist Nick Humphrey. Yeah, I do. I mean, I still do my meteorologist Nick Humphrey Facebook
Yeah.
page, weather and climate page, so you can find me on Facebook. So I do that. So that's worth the money if you want to follow me. $2, $5 a month, or whatever. That's worth the money because I do posts. I've been doing more posts on there lately. More
What platform
news
is that?
stories and things like that.
Face
What
crack.
platform? What platform is that?
Facebook.
Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, there's still
Yeah.
those of us on Facebook. I mean, we have a page and a group, and we're still on Facebook. Lots of different variety of groups, and Nick's meteorological page is a good one. And yes, I always know because I have a notification that comes up. Ding. All right, so Cal, I'm gonna let you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say in my Patreon link is on my meteorologist Nick Humphrey Facebook page, so you can get to my Patreon link through there. So.
All right, that's awesome. Wow, I've enjoyed this, Kelley. Do you feel that you got everything you covered you wanted to, and you asked the questions you wanted to?
I think so.
All right, well, let me say thank you to the people that were so lovely tonight. Candle Frump, $20 super chat. Here comes the hope. Oh, I think he was definitely in the wrong place. What hope do we have for emergency management? Do we have hope, Nicholas? We have hope for emergency management?
As long as there isn't nuclear war, I guess. I can't do anything about nuclear war.
We hope so. And thank you, Kristen. Isn't that lovely? And we can't see it because it says pair character bowing down. So obviously something's bowing. It's an emoji. Thank you. Thank you.
Says pair character bowing down saying thank you.
Yeah, but it doesn't show because I'm showing this through eCam. And thank you, Jim, Super Jim. I'm going to plug him. Jim McHenry does his climate change show every week on Facebook. He is amazing. Of course, Nick and Jim know each other. And thank you. And his wife, Tanya, thank you. Again, we can't see the character, so this was a lemon character running, then kneeling on the floor, his eyes wide open, and a slice of lemon appearing behind him. So, guys, put your AI headgear on and close your eyes, and you'll see the lemon. And oh boy, thank you, Hoops. Thank you. Canadian $13.99. Thank you very much. This is all very helpful for this channel. Trust me, we are all in a gig economy and we all help each other. That's what I end with. All right. That's it, folks. See you on Tuesday night. All right. Love you guys. Love you. Love you.